Diane at the Y a couple of weeks ago, shared with her the presentation that we shared with you all about a month ago. We would characterize it as a very good conversation. What was interesting, they are quite a few steps ahead of us, as I think we've talked about, as far as process. What was interesting is that, and those of you who've been involved with it probably know this already, they were following the same path for their project, getting the same feedback back from their stakeholders from the community as we have. So what we found interesting is that although at different times and by different stakeholder groups, the entire community sees needs here that aren't being met, both for their patrons and for our patrons. What came out of it was each of us supports each other's project. They certainly have made some decisions within to pursue programming much like we have with the fitness. Part of the biggest take we got out of it was they are fully intending to pursue a complete youth sports program.
Which they're not doing right now.
Which they're not doing right now. Which we all did years ago. And recall, we're still missing a Y here.
Yeah, right. Wow.
We're still missing a Y here.
There was 3 at that one time, us and 2 Ys.
So yeah, so
The court street.
back however many years ago, there was Parks and Recreation, the YW and the YM. And as a matter of remembering and context for history, the YM and YW combined. So in the community, when that happened, and they did it for the right, they had to do it, understood why they had to do it, did it for the reasons that they needed to. They had to make some operational decisions at the time, but the community supported all 3 of those entities at that time, supported them well. So going forward, yes, there are some of the same elements in both projects. For sure, we've all seen that, we've all talked about that. There continues to be room for both of those. There still continues to be a need for both of those. What came out of the meeting with the Y, we're gonna continue to meet with the Y as they go along. The Y is gonna be a good resource for us, in that, hey, here's what we did that worked well. You all should think about this in your project. Hey, this is what we did that probably we would do again. Think about that. And at the end of the day, our missions are slightly different. The Y's mission is for that segment of the community. We are certainly, as a public agency, have our mission in supporting the citizens here in the community. Both can support each other. I think that's generally how.
Yeah, one thing she is gonna go look at, she was asking about, the 2, we have a lot of similar components in each place, and one of them was the fitness. She was wondering, and like we have learned doing our research and going out and looking at all these facilities that we did, that it helps each other when you have both fun in the community. It enhances and it increases people going to both places. And so she's interested in looking into that and seeing more about that, which is great because there's so much data out there that supports that.
I would say too, that when we look at both projects, the only thing that is new that overlaps, like there will never be too much childcare. I think that it's been shown that we desperately need more gyms, even when we bring back the YM and the YW. When I first moved to Bangor, I lived on Court Street and the YM was right there and had a pool, and I believe it had basketball court. And then when they merged, they took the basketball court at the YW and made that the fitness center. So that lost 2 gyms and a pool, and I believe part of the reason why they merged was also aging infrastructure, which is what we're facing with the city. But really the only thing that's sort of new that overlaps is the fitness room, which I feel like is also not the most expensive component of the projects. So I see that other than that, everything else sort of does complement each other.
Yeah.
The Y have been fantastic partners with us. We've shared that with you before, and that won't change. But what's interesting about the YM on Hammond Street, when they moved that fitness center to the old gym, that was a fantastic fitness center.
Oh, wasn't it fun?
It was fantastic fitness. And right now, that option for members of the community aren't there, and it was busy, it was busy. And they also used, the gym out to UMA,
Mhm.
they had the facility out to UMA. So, yeah, community's ready for this kind of space, these kinds of spaces. Yes, it will be a Bangor facility. Certainly, we've talked about it here, the regional aspect of it isn't lost on either effort. And ultimately, it was a good opportunity for both departments and each staff get together, and the conversation is gonna continue. And it's gonna be to support each other, and as Deb said, Diane is gonna do her own homework, and I think the conversations ongoing will be much as they always have with us. Much as they always have. We've complimented each other over the years, and that goes back to when both organizations were in place, both the YW and the YM. So. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think that was a big question that has been sort of brought up over and over is what about the why? So I feel like that discussion helps clarify.
And one of the things actually to add on to that, she was wondering when we were doing our research, did people know about their, what they were doing? And everybody did. They all did know about it. So, and so that answered her question, that it was all out there that the Y was building something, and now we're starting this project and going through our own research. And people came and said, we need this.
Any other questions or comments? No? Continue. I wanted to make sure we hit the why.
Yeah, no, so just again, continue to go. Thank you, Gunnar, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we're trying to lay out how we think this report for you all will be structured back to council. So we've talked about the why, and as we mentioned in the note, we'll have ongoing conversation, which we think should be included in your final report. We've talked about all the spaces and confirmed those continue to be needs based on all the feedback we've had. The one piece under 6 that we did incorporate is the addition of outdoor sports fields as part of phase 1. And whatever form or shape that takes. Do you want that included as part of your final report back to council? Might be the next thing you want to talk about.
You would say yes?
I would say yes.
Okay.
And I think that's a great idea, because the need is out there for outdoor facilities. And we have the space, and I know we're gonna do it, but if you're looking at the numbers. With just that little bit added on, why not? And we have to do the grounds anyways to get the rest of it done, so it won't take that.
We'd be landscaping
Yeah,
otherwise, or.
right.
And this is something the Y doesn't have, right? They're not gonna have like an outdoor.
Yeah, but the
No.
only outdoor space they will have, the city, they'll begin use of Talbot Park, the majority of Talbot Park.
Pine Shaws.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. For outdoor green space, but that's all they'll have at their new site. And as we've talked about, and we actually shared it with you at our last meeting, the only real available outdoor space on a consistent basis is Cameron Stadium, Union Street Complex, and hit or miss behind the Dowdy School if available. And Cameron Stadium, as Joe shared with you, it's a community facility, but certainly school activities are majority of the use over there. And Joe squeezes in every minute of availability for every group he can. So the need continues to be there for the outdoor space.
In this, can you clarify how the city, the relationship between the city and that Second Street Park, and how that, was it transferred over?
Transferred over, yeah.
So that the Y could use that property, that whole park, with the exception of the playground equipment?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, so there'll be a carve out for the play structure, and the area around the play structures.
But otherwise, that whole park now becomes part of the Y's complex to, do whatever outdoor space, however they want to use it.
I believe, and don't hold me to this as far as 100% accuracy, part of their concept includes some of the park becoming parking.
Possibly, I don't know.
I think most of their parking is on the Second Street park side of the project. And then there's an entryway incorporated in that concept. So without sharing the 100% actually, I think some of that infrastructure will be absorbed into the park. And as you may be aware, the street Davis Court.
Yeah.
Has been absorbed into
Yeah.
that project. As well as some of the lots up on the end of First Street. But yes, their intent is to use it for some green space. Certainly they'll have it for their own activities. The childcare, I think, is gonna be accessed on that side, if I remember the concept correctly.
I don't think it will be like a sports field.
No.
When I was on council and it was being discussed, it wasn't, the intent wasn't to be like a soccer field for the Y, it would just be maybe playground space, like fenced in childcare outside play area.
Yep.
So,
But they might still, Diane, they want to start youth programming and go hard with everything soccer, basketball and all these things. So, you never know. They might use it for some stuff.
okay.
Okay. So just continue down the outline, we'll add that. We'll incorporate, again, a review of the current conditions. I know it's been in the report, you all have seen that. Even since that time, specifically at Sawyer, a few things have changed over there.
Assuming not for the better.
Assuming not for the
It did not
better.
magically heal thyself.
No, I would be willing to bet if Joe had that kind of power, he probably would be sitting here with us right
Long
now.
time ago.
The dashers are leaning again, the chiller is,
Mhm.
and that's all I'll say out loud. And the boiler is now leaking. So, just a general update of that. Again, Carolyn, you have mentioned, using a resource to get some of those. Really, a picture will tell 1,000 words type thing.
Mhm.
I think that'll be good to incorporate as we go forward, just so everybody understands. I think you all understand it, it's pretty common knowledge, but for
Hopefully
those that
by
may-
the next meeting.
yeah, no, I'll hopefully get that figured out for you. So the final piece of your report would be, again, to summarize everything we've talked about. Re-emphasize the significant and broad support from all the stakeholders that we've heard from in the community survey. And recommend next steps for the council to pursue. Which could include some sort of ballot initiative for November. Ultimately, it's their decision. But for you folks, is that the direction you want to head in, or anything else you want to make sure that the council is aware of?
Or add to this document that's gonna be.
Everybody free final
created.
report.
Any comments to add or any thoughts to add?
And for Council Fish, to directly put you on the spot, do you, as a council representative, feel like this would be?
Yes, I think this would be good. The other question they might have, would be, any ideas, and maybe meet with our grant writer and just any suggestions we might have. I know we gotta go to vote, but, how the Y raised money, any recommendations or any ideas or any creative thoughts we might have for funding. We all have our own, but if there's anything new, when I did reach out to the rec department in Sedona. Interestingly, the new rec center out there, the city did not have funds, did not have the support, was not voted in. So the whole, there was a big shift between the city getting behind. They were also thinking about building a new Y. So what they did is got behind the Y, and the city and the Y sort of in partnership, but separately, the Y expanded and incorporated some of the needs of the city. So a little bit different. The Y was a little further ahead. They had more funding on a private sector. The city didn't have the support from the citizens. The majority of the residents there were seasonal, didn't really have the stakes with the children, full-time children, and it just didn't pass. So they shifted gears.
One thing that I would make sure that is included in this, is when we talk about the stakeholder process, or when we talk about what this facility is for, that, I mean, I talk about childcare all the time and we talk about kids sports and all that, but to really emphasize that this is a multi-generation facility. It is not just a childcare, it's not just for the hockey teams, that it really is meant to be a facility for the community use spaces, expanding programming across the demographics,
Mhm.
and not just for not just for kids. I mean, the kids sell a lot of things. People like to do a lot of things for their kids, but also gotta take care of everyone.
Yeah,
I was
That's where-
concerned that after listening to what happened in Sedona, we really need to make sure between now and November, we educate the public and we get the public enthusiastic and understand it's not that we want it, we need it.
Mhm.
You know, we want it too, but I mean, we really need it.
Yeah.
It's a
Is there a
place where the
strategy
whole
for that?
family can
Oh, I'm
go.
sorry.
It's a place where the whole family can go. That needs to be really emphasized. You know, there's something for little ones, for senior citizens, for, you know, anybody and everybody. Hockey players, basketball players, baseball players, everybody.
I know the hockey parents will turn out, but I think it's also important that we make it clear it's not just for,
Yeah.
hockey parents, hockey parents.
It may be a little outside the scope of this committee, I recognize that, but is there a strategy for pushing that out to the public for that public messaging?
That would be the next step, so, getting the decision to put it out there, then starts that conversation, so. For you, Nikki and some of you, it would be analogous to when the cross center,
Arena.
Mm.
yeah. That would, that's how I see it, it would be analogous to the cross center.
There's also a little bit of that with Cameron Stadium.
And look at that with Cameron Stadium, yep, yeah, for sure, so. It's a long-winded way of answering your question, yeah, there'd be a strategy, we have some. Previous projects that have been completed that we can refer back to. And it could be as simple as a recommendation in this report that the city engage. With a consultant to strategize a campaign going forward. To make sure that the information does get out there. For all of the segments of the population to at least get the full picture and then make the decision.
It's not in here about the connection with Hassan or any of that with the St. Joe's in the past that you were talking about. Do you want to put any of that in here saying about how it is gonna fit into the neighborhood? Where people are talking about it's not as in neighborhood settings or it's more rural based. Do you want to be able to talk about how it's going to incorporate into that neighborhood?
Sure, I can tell you from Hassan's perspective, and we're very excited about the project, they're very supportive. I think, we certainly, it's getting the cart ahead of the horse, but we certainly would love to have conversations about what, would you be interested in some sort of a group rate for students or whatever that might look like. From just a recreational perspective, we also, I know we've had just some really preliminary conversations about what opportunities might there be down the road to help, support our athletic teams. We're somewhat limited in facilities. We don't have a track. We have a track and field team. We don't have a track. So we're using Cameron Stadium. We use different facilities. We've worked out those agreements, but obviously there's a massive advantage to having a track down the road in future ongoing phases. It would be wonderful to be able to work out some agreements with the city. I think Huston's had a great relationship with the city, and we've kind of worked back and forth with facilities and things. And we certainly would look at this as another opportunity to do that. We've talked about as our athletic program may expand down the road, would we think about things like potentially a Division III hockey team or something? And would there be some opportunity where we're not there right now? We're not ready to we explore that a little bit. We're not ready to take that leap and make any sort of a commitment, but it certainly would be wonderful to think that the door might be open to those conversations moving forward.
Another thing too, because I work at Husson, I'm not here representing Husson, Chris is, but just you hire so many Husson students. Imagine how many you could hire if they didn't need a car to get there and could get back and forth. In our sports management programs, imagine if you had interns from Husson who walked across the street to learn how to manage athletic facilities. If you talk about our education students coming over and doing an internship with the summer camps or the early childhood programs, so there's so many opportunities based on location. Then you talk about St. Joe's,
That'd be great to kind of incorporate a little bit of that in this.
I think if you can bring that into because of the hesitation about the location, if you talk about the advantages of that location and serving a population that there's nothing out there right now. So what can we do to make this more, bring that part of the city into the city a little more?
What excited me as a parent, and you were talking about all these of the cross-country kids going from Bangor High over to
Yeah.
Griffin Road and watching them cross Broadway as I hold my breath. Talking about having a safer way for them to get there, that alone would be,
And some of that might end up being that like St. Joe's cuts a path and Husson picks up the path and it's not really city, not really a city project, but helps integrate those, you know, 3, 4 big systems, talk about Bangor High, St. Joe's, Husson, and in this new facility, if you have those integrated, it could be
Mhm.
very beneficial.
That would certainly, it would go a long way towards supporting, you know, our grant, St. Joe's and Husson have both been part of this kind of a trail project concept. We've looked at some grant funding, we haven't been successful yet, but I think there are future opportunities, and this would certainly bolster that argument. Just having that connection between, you know, both of the city's facilities, I think would help that.
Yeah, and like, you know, we talk about it being the geographic center of the city, but also there's people there. And
Mhm.
it's not out in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of people there, and from August to May, there's even more people there than people might realize. So I think that, and you know, I see people who come in from like Glenburn and have their kids ride their bike around the circle in the
Mhm.
summer, because it's
Oh, yeah.
like a safe place to ride your bike. Or a lot of people walk their dogs through the circle and around from like Hudson Avenue. So it would just extend that and build on that sort of outer neighborhood. So I think just making sure that the location is discussed, not just in its position in
Yeah.
the city and the municipal structure, but also in the community and how it will serve the community. And it's honestly one of the reasons I think that if you were putting this in the location of the current building, it would be a lot harder sell for me, because if you had a Y right next to a city building, that's tough. But if you have your east side facility and you have your west side facility, I think it makes great sense to help our
Mhm.
expanding
And
community.
traffic congestion too, I mean, it's a much, good infrastructure there, it's easy to get to, and it doesn't add to the congestion of downtown Bangor.
Right.
Person's gonna come in from Glenburn, right?
I am,
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly. First member.
All right, I got the application right here for you.
Yeah, blank owner.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, if it's helpful, I'm happy to kind of write something up from the housing perspective.
No.
So that'd be now where I'm gonna go next, so that, I appreciate that, because we'll take that. Well, I say we, staff would take that, and certainly if the committees could do that, but incorporating any support and or enthusiasm to be a partner with the project. Certainly the concept, our driveway is aligned with
Mhm.
that driveway. And that could be beneficial with traffic planning down the road, pedestrian access and all of that. So, yeah, if you don't mind just kind of crafting something up, sending it to me, that'd be, I think it's a great idea. Thank you, Mike.
Yes,
Thanks, everybody. See you later, next time.
you're good with all this, I'm assuming. You're good with our
Absolutely.
conversation?
Yeah, I think we're definitely on the
Wonderful.
right track, and yeah, this sounds good. I'm excited.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's great to include that, if you don't mind doing that. Yep.
Is Hudson interested in helping with the funding of the project?
I can say yes to that. We're in the middle of our own, we certainly have had some financial challenges we're working through and coming out of, so, like I say, we're excited about the partnership opportunities. I think, you know, we're not at this point, we're not in a position to make commitments in terms of how we would be expanding programming or athletics.
No one in higher ed is in a position to say that right
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's true, it's like,
I wanted to ask the
literally no,
question.
no college that
There
can
would
make
have
any
been a
commitment
time,
like that.
there would have been a time when Hudson might have,
Yeah.
yeah.
But there could be, I mean, you all have done this kind of work. I mean, fundraising is fundraising.
Mhm.
And there might be either contacts or typical, we've had good luck with these groups, start there.
I mean, I think the
Is that fair?
easiest one is to, if we can get letters of support from other community partners that would be into this, even if it's just like the hockey programs, obviously are gonna be into this, right? But Hudson for its needs, if St. Joe's is interested in, and, you know, just saying, yes, we like this and this is gonna be beneficial to our neighborhood, you know, our neighborhood because of this. Any of those groups that can say, no, really, this is gonna be a value to us, I think would be beneficial in just explaining the need, even if you get, you know, your line dancers. You know, like get some of those folks, your little walkers or your preschool moms or all those little people that we don't, you know, you don't see that as much.
Well, and also that's going to put the word out there more and people not being able to say, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But to continue on that theme, I mean, that does bring us back full circle. I mean, the Y has already done that, you know, asked all the interested groups, asked, will you be interested in this? Asked everybody for funding. we've all already been asked to participate in a
Understood.
project.
Understood.
And so the funding is different for both projects. So
Mhm.
this is a taxpayer situation,
Mhm.
it's municipal. It's on a whole different scale of, this one's asking taxpayers
Mhm.
for a bond funding situation versus the other one. So I think we do have to be very clear about,
Mhm.
why there is an additional need for this.
Mhm.
On that note, I wonder if the Y would write something about, they're in support of this because they're still a need.
They
And
can't,
we're picking up.
would they
something
say
that-
they can't quite meet the need? I don't
Yeah,
know.
That might be helpful for the public to know that, the Y.
So and to know that it's not it's not a competition, it really is like it really is a compliment for,
Yeah,
the only competition would be the
money.
weight room.
Except for the fact that I think
There's still.
in the Wise case, they would need membership to cover the cost of
Mhm.
being the Y.
Mhm.
I mean, in the city's case, the city could be supplemented by the taxpayers at any time.
Yeah.
The city's, this particular project doesn't need to meet its
Right.
expenses, pay for all of its expenses, where the Wise in that case does.
Mhm.
I mean, they have to,
And that's what, no, I'm sorry.
a way to pay for their operations and to stay open and.
That's all fair. I mean, any of those, Wise, Boys and Girls Clubs, all those organizations, they fundraise to operate. And through fees, memberships, donors.
To pay back their debt for building the
Yep.
facility.
Yeah, and they're gonna start programming, youth programming, which they haven't done, so that's gonna generate more revenue for them. Something that they
Well,
haven't done.
that's all fair. I mean, as a public municipal agency, we get, we're offset by revenue with our program fees, so that our total impact to taxpayer is, we try to minimize that as much as we can.
You have a question?
Well, what do you mean, no one, youth programming, they have had stuff for,
They have not had programming, youth programming like youth basketball and T-ball.
I see what you're saying.
And
Yeah.
all those type of programs they haven't had since they kind of merged. They did have it before.
Yeah.
I know we both had basketball programs, both had T-ball programs, we both had all that type of stuff. And then they stopped it and we've been doing it ever since, like taking on everybody, and so they want to start that back up to generate revenue.
Because, could follow up, because they have to. But did we ever answer the question about the current subsidy and then what the projected subsidy would be for the new facility?
That's included in the.
Did that get in
Yeah,
that? Okay.
that got-
I didn't have time to drill
No,
down.
and
to see if
I know
could
you
find
didn't,
it.
no,
Yeah.
so that's why I said, I didn't want to get in the weeds of it today. It's the full report, the supplemented pro forma that we talked about a couple of weeks ago was incorporated into that, so yes, to answer your question, long winded way.
Cause that, I know that was kind of an outline question
Yeah.
that, should kind of be out there to know that this is, it's a different funded, a
Oh, for
different.
sure.
Yeah.
That and the existing buildings was the other one that we were,
Yeah.
even if it was obviously not hard numbers, but just things that would offset the cost and.
So I'm still trying to get, I think Council Fish asked about where we are at Parks and Rec, is there any sort of value to that? I'm sure there is, at the worst case, we just use a tax card for that answer. With respect to Soy Arena, that's a little different
Mhm.
entity in that it's incorporated within Hayford Park. The Park Service wouldn't allow us to sell it off, so we'd have to repurpose it in some way.
Which could be another field, it could be another, we could,
Could be another outdoor
a
space.
second skate park.
But it also can be,
The first one,
It also-
give me a couple more years.
it also could be more parking too, so they don't have to park on the
Sure.
lawn for Mansfield,
Yep.
Yeah.
um,
Make it a little even less chaotic out there.
yeah.
So are there any other notes on that? So
No, I'm good now.
Okay.
I'll keep going.
no, I was gonna say, like, I feel like we've sort of discussed everything in the section 3, like reviewing the current conditions, we discussed
Yeah.
that. The conclusions, we wanna make sure that we are.
Yeah, that's the next piece. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, the product from today, the deliverable from today for staff is, if you feel with the inclusion of the items we've talked about today, if you feel like this outline is a direction for your report, that's what we'd like the staff, to hear from you all today.
I think we're good for them to draft the report.
Okay,
Everyone good with that?
okay.
We're good with that, yep.
Are they, gonna note that, so like, 3D and back, the discussion and confirmation of the Griffin Road thing, that wasn't something that we discussed here. Like, we discussed it, but we didn't decide it here. That was,
It was decided before. the
That should
committee.
be up at number one, maybe.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
number
possible.
one. That was all.
And this-
So move
Decided
review of
before.
location up to number
Yeah.
one. Okay,
Just so there's no, it's not vague,
okay.
good clarity. That's a good point.
Should my letter be to you as the chair, Rich, or to Tracy? Great.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll expect it by the end of the day. No, I'm kidding.
At the risk of making that decision for a chair, I just did.
I don't know if you don't want to send it to my Hassan email, I mean, you can, or you send me a PDF and I can print it out, or I can attach it. I don't know if you don't want to muddy the waters with Hassan connections, but whatever, however you want.
I think you're
I don't
in
think-
this role. I mean, I think that is the chair. that-
Yeah.
That's the appropriate,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the appropriate path.
I don't think Hassan's gonna be mad if I support this.
You know some people.
I know some people. All right, so.
Hold on.
Oh,
And maybe for the phases, just really be clear on the phases, because it seems like one document, it's kind of clear what the phases are, and then the other, it's all in the first
Yeah.
phase.
Yeah, that's a good point. The
How
phase
minim-
has sort of shifted a little bit.
And how minimal can the first phase be, to really help the taxpayers understand, it
Mhm.
can be, it can start this way, and then we see how things go
Yeah.
as the other resources come on within the community. I mean, that's the thought, but at least be clear on what the thinking is for the
For sure.
first phase.
For sure.
Any other comments or questions? So at our next meeting, which will be like 2 weeks from tomorrow,
July 3rd is the next scheduled meeting for this committee, so,
Jeez.
yeah, we'll try to get this
Oh
worked
my
up,
gosh.
so you'll have at least a day or so prior to that.
okay,
Work from there.
I'll be away, but I'll get this letter to you and I'm happy to, if there's something I can do to be helpful from
Yep.
afar.
Yep.
No, I'm gone.
I feel like we're in a good place to get something produced for you all to then kind of go over and finalize.
great,
Good.
Okay?
all right. Thank you, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Brings up John Cole as the